I should have argued. Obviously, I should have argued. But I can't describe the way I felt in that moment. It was as though my fear gave way to denial so quickly that I was already calling myself crazy, reaching desperately for the idea that no, I was seeing things, feeling things, as though I needed to prove to myself that I was crazy and the horrors my mind was conjuring simply couldn't exist. So, I stayed as the three of us trudged out of the living room, as we all pulled our clothes tighter and ignored the ice seeping into our skin. I ignored Adam squeezing my shoulder, a sentiment he'd never bothered with before. I ignored my thudding heart as we clutched our cameras, bursting into the living room in our most epic movie yet, ready to contort our faces in horror. But we didn't have to fake it. In the corner was our screaming EMF reader, blinking red as it had been for the last 5 minutes. But the problem was the endless claws wrapped around it, attached to a figure so tall its head brushed the ceiling and black eyes glared upon us. It swayed in the shadows, but I could see its arms, gaunt and as long as its legs, neck cracking awfully as it turned to look at us in an instant. A sick dripping sounded just loud enough for us to hear, and to this day, I imagine it as thick, crimson blood falling from its fingers onto its dead, curled toes. "Holy shit," Adam whispered, so I knew, in fact, I hadn't lost my mind. We ran, of course. Scared idiots, launching themselves backwards and tripping over everything, legs jelly as we bolted for the front door. I cursed myself for not leaving more quickly, begged for a time machine to have me believe my eyes the first time. We didn't make it. There in the hallway was our 1998 horror movie audio device, except now it was crackling and a rasp sounded from it, too deep and gravelly to be human. Layers of voices sounded at once, so distorted I could barely make them out. "I smell your blood," it rasped, the voice touching me so closely I could practically feel it inside of me. "I'll suck it out of your veins and wear your skin." And then, before there was time to react, every light bulb in the house smashed at once. I know because I heard the shards hit the floor in every room, cried out as pure darkness filled the space, leaving me with no idea where my friends were, and if they even existed anymore. "The door won't fucking open," Adam screeched from my right, audibly jamming the handle. "It won't open." "Where's the crucifix?" Jonah begged, and I could hear the tears in his voice. "Adam, where?" But now, it was only footsteps we heard, not slow ones. Thudding, loud footsteps, gaining pace and getting louder and louder, till it sounded like something was running at us. But the sound didn't come from the floor. With the utmost gut-wrenching feeling of horror, I realized it was coming from the ceiling. "Oh my God." Adam's voice was below me somewhere, because he'd fallen down into a heap of fear. "What the fuck is that? What is that?" It was deafening. All of it. The wailing EMF detector, the rasp of crackling audio threatening to break all our bones at once, the footsteps slamming to a stop directly above my head. All leading to the moment I looked up, a silent tear disappearing in a slow trickle down my cheek. Its body was contorted horribly as it glowered down from the ceiling, neck cracked at an unnatural angle, with bones jutting out everywhere. Dead, black holes for eyes bored into mine, hell radiating from them in such a way that I was knocked to the floor by the sheer force of it. Rows of razor teeth were pulled back into a horrific grin, stretching much in the way its wings did as they grazed the ceiling, reams of liquid trickling from them onto our heads. Hell, staring from above me. My memory is hazy, and part of me thinks my brain tried to erase the trauma to give myself half a chance to go on with my life. I remember Jonah being lifted into the air with such a guttural wail that I've never heard a sound like it since. Remember the sound of his bones crackling as we ran, making straight for the living room. We threw furniture at the window and ignored the thud of Jonah's lifeless body being hurled at us, hitting the wall with a sick crack. I know we got out. I felt its eyes burning from behind me as our skin snagged on glass as we sprinted into the hammering rain, screaming for any help we could find. When the paramedics came, most of Jonah's leg had already been eaten, the remains nowhere to be found. He woke up 6 days later, screaming bloody murder. Screams he kept up till he was sedated, only reducing to a whimpering wail the third time they woke him up. The bottom floor of the house was destroyed, along with everything in it. Our equipment crushed. All evidence of our horrors erased other than the haunted look in Adams's eyes and the nightmares that still wake me at 3 a.m. Wild animals tore the leg from an unconscious Jonah, the local police said. We were just idiots, holding a seance in a house, leaving the back door open to all manner of wild animals as we partied ourselves silly. At first, they thought we trashed the house, but the Whistlebees assured the police that no, it simply wasn't the case. This had happened before, they told them. We were just caught in the crossfire. They gave their statement that night, protested our innocence, then packed their bags. They never left. Their little girl went missing that night, right before they could flee. Her suitcase sat in her room, untouched, and that house became a sad legend on those streets, spoken about in hushed tones. I left town, but something inside it never left me. We don't speak of it, the three of us. We left, and when we meet, that night exists as the elephant in the room. Jonah's scarred stump reminding us that we didn't imagine the entire thing as a collective fever dream. So I left, lived my life, started going to church, took up cricket, and when I hear the sound of thudding footsteps hammering along the ceiling of my hallway in the dead of night, I pull the covers over my head and pray to every god that may or may not exist, that I'll live another day. It takes such a long time to pick up all 104 crucifixes off the floor the next morning, but for the life of me, I'll never stop doing it.